Have you ever wondered if vampires are actually real? Have you ever questioned whether the legends are based on truth or if they're nothing more than stories passed down through generations? In today's podcast, we're diving deep down into the history of vampires, the legends that made them famous, and the chilling stories people have claimed really happened. From ancient folklore to many-day encounters, we'll explore why the myth of the vampire has survived for centuries, and whether there's any truth hiding behind the darkness. So dim the lights, get comfortable, and let's begin. For hundreds of years, people have whispered stories about creatures that come alive after death, feeding on the blood of the living to survive. They are said to move silently through the darkness, possess this incredible strength, and to never seem to grow old. Some believe they are nothing more than fictional monsters created to scare children. Others believe that somewhere in the shadows they still exist. But where did these stories come from? Surprisingly, vampire legends didn't begin with movies or novels. They're much older than most people realize. In fact, nearly every culture throughout history has had its own version of a blood-drinking creature. Thousands of years ago, ancient civilizations feared restless spirits that returned from the grave. In ancient Mesopotamia, I think that's how you say it, stories told of the demons that preyed upon humans while they slept. In ancient Greece, legends spoke of creatures that rose from the dead to drain the life from their victims. Across Europe, people believed that those who died under mysterious circumstances could return as undead beings. Long before vampires wore black capes or had sharp fangs, they were imagined as terrifying corpses. Their skin was pale, their eyes were lifeless, and they were believed to spread diseases, death, and fear wherever they wandered. Many historians believe these terrifying stories became popular because people simply didn't understand death. Imagine living hundreds of years ago. There was no hospitals, no modern science, and no understanding of how the human body decomposed. When someone died unexpectedly, families searched for answers. Sometimes, after opening a grave, they found something shocking. Instead of seeing a skeleton, the body appeared strangely preserved. The skin looked stretched, the hair seemed longer, and dried blood could sometimes be seen around the mouth. To people living at that time, it looked as though the dead had been feeding. Today, science has an explanation. As the body decomposes, the skin shrinks, making hair and fingernails appear longer. Gases build up inside the body, pushing dark fluids from the mouth and nose. Without scientific knowledge, these natural processes looked incredibly frightening. To villagers, there was only one explanation: the dead were alive. Entire communities became convinced that vampires were responsible for sickness and death. If several people died within a short period, they believed one undead creature was secretly attacking families at night. Fear spread quickly. People dug up graves, searching for the suspected vampire. If the body looked too well preserved, they believed they had found the monster. Some drove wooden stakes through the heart, others removed the head. Some even burned the body completely, believing it was the only way to stop the creature from returning. As horrifying as these rituals sound today, the people performing them truly believed they were protecting their villages. These weren't isolated incidents either. Across Eastern Europe during the 1700s, Entire villages experienced what historians now call vampire panics. Families accused neighbors who had already died of causing mysterious illness. Graves were opened in the middle of the night. Crowds gathered as bodies were examined for signs of vampirism. When they found what they believed was evidence, they acted immediately. Looking back now, many experts believe these outbreaks were caused by diseases spreading through communities but without medical knowledge. Fear quickly transformed into supernatural belief. As vampire stories spread across Europe, each country developed its own terrifying version. Some believed vampires could transform into wolves, others claimed they became bats. Some legends said they could turn into mist and slip through tiny cracks to enter homes. One of the most common beliefs was that vampires could not enter a house unless they were invited inside. This idea has survived for centuries and still appears in books, television shows, and movies today. Which that kind of reminds me, vampires not allowed to go inside people's homes unless they were invited in. It kind of reminds me of the Vampire Diaries. Anyways, let's get back to the script. Another famous belief involved garlic. People hung garlic above doors and windows because they believed its strong smell could keep evil spirits away. Crosses, holy water, silver objects, and wooden stakes also became symbols of protection against the undead. Whether any of these methods actually worked was another question entirely. Perhaps the most famous vampire story of all comes from Transylvania, a region surrounded by forests, castles, and mountains. Its mysterious landscape inspired countless legends, especially after the publication of one of the world's most famous horror novels. But many people didn't realize that the fictional Count Dracula may have been inspired by a very real historical ruler known for his extreme cruelty. His name was Vlad III, better known today as Vlad the Impaler. He ruled Wallachia, I think that's how you say it, during the 1400s and became infamous for executing thousands of his enemies by impaling them on wooden stakes. Historical records describe forests filled with sharpened poles carrying the bodies of those who opposed them. His ritual reputation spread throughout Europe, eventually inspiring stories that blended history with supernatural folklore. Although there is absolutely no evidence that Vlad drank blood or believed himself to be a vampire, his terrifying image helped shape one of history's greatest horror legends. But Vlad wasn't the only historical figure linked to vampire myths. Another woman became infamous centuries later. Her name was Elizabeth Bathory. She was a Hungarian noblewoman accused of torturing and murdering young women. Over time, rumors grew more unbelievable. Some claimed she bathed in blood to preserve her youth forever. Although historians continue debating how much of these stories are true and how much was exaggerated, her legend became closely connected to vampire folklore. The idea that blood could restore youth fascinated people for generations and helped create the image of the elegant, immortal vampire we recognize today. As the centuries passed, vampire legends became even darker. People claimed strange figures were seen walking through graveyards after sunset. Others reported hearing scratching on windows during the middle of the night. Some swore they woke unable to move while seeing a dark figure standing beside their bed, watching silently. Were these encounters real, or were they something science would eventually explain? That's exactly what we'll explore next. For centuries, stories of vampires continued to spread across Europe and eventually across the world. Every generation seemed to add new details to the legend, some making these mysterious creatures even more terrifying. But one question remained. Why were there so many people convinced they had actually seen one? One explanation comes from a condition known today as sleep paralysis. Known today as sleep paralysis. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night, your eyes wide open, but your body refuses to move. You try to scream, but no sound comes out. Then, standing in the darkest corner of your room, you noticed what appears to be a shadowy figure watching you. Many people describe feeling pressure on their chest as though something is sitting on them or draining their energy. Some even report hearing whispers, footsteps, or breathing. Today, scientists believe sleep paralysis happens when the brain wakes up before the body does. During this short period, vivid hallucinations can occur that feel completely real. But centuries ago, people had no scientific explanation. Instead, they believed they had been visited by a vampire, demon, or evil spirit. Another reason vampire stories spread was disease. In the past, illnesses such as tuberculosis spread through families, one person at a time. As each family member became weaker, lost weight, and grew pale, people believed something supernatural was feeding on them. Tuberculosis was nicknamed consumption because it seemed to slowly consume its victims. Without understanding bacteria or viruses, frightened communities searched for another explanation. The vampire became the perfect answer. One of the strangest historical cases happened in New England during the 1800s. Several members of the family died from tuberculosis within a short period. Convinced that one of the deceased relatives was somehow causing the illness, family members dug up the graves to inspect the bodies. When they found one body that appeared unusually well preserved, they believed that they have discovered a vampire. According to the historical accounts, they removed organs from the body and burned them in an attempt to stop the disease. Of course, it didn't work because the real cause was tuberculosis, not the supernatural. Even so, stories like these strengthens belief in vampires for years to come. Then there were the stories that remain difficult to explain. Throughout history, people have claimed to see mysterious pale figures wandering about cemeteries late at night. Others tell stories of strangers dressed entirely in black who seemed to disappear without a trace. Some accounts describe glowing eyes in the darkness, while others speak of people who seemed unusually fascinated by blood. It's important to remember that eyewitnesses' accounts, no matter how convincing they sound, are not proof. Human memory can be influenced by fear, expectations, poor lighting, and misunderstandings. Still, these stories continue to capture people's imaginations because they tap into one of the they tap into one of our oldest fears, the fear of the unknown. Vampires became even more popular after they entered books, movies, and televisions. Over time, their appearance changed dramatically. Instead of terrifying, decaying corpses, vampires became elegant, charming, and most impossible to resist. Some could hypnotize their victims with a single glance. Others possessed incredible speed, superhuman strength, and immortality. While these modern portrayals are entertaining, they are very different from the frightening folklore that inspired them. The original legends described vampires as bloated, frightening creatures that spread fear rather than romance. Even today, there are people who identify as real-life vampires. Most are not claimed to be supernatural beings. Instead, they describe vampire identity as part of a lifestyle or spiritual belief. Some participate in communities where they wear gothic clothing, enjoy vampire-themed events, or roleplay as immortal beings. A much smaller number say they consume small amounts of donating human blood from consenting adults. Others describe themselves as physic vampires, believing they gain emotional energy from those around them rather than feeding on blood. These communities generally reject the idea that they are monsters from folklore. Instead, they see their beliefs or practices as part of their identity or culture. So, could vampires really exist? Based on everything we know today, there is no reliable scientific evidence that supernatural vampires exist. No confirmed discoveries, no verified photographs, no medical evidence, and no scientific studies have proven that immortal blood-drinking creatures walk among us. Most historians agree that vampire legends grew from a combination of misunderstood diseases, fear, folklore, religious beliefs, and natural changes that occur after death. But perhaps that's what makes the legends so fascinating. Every generation continues to tell the story. Every culture adds its own version, and every once in a while, someone claims they've seen something that they simply can't explain. Whether those stories are the result of imagination, coincidence, mistaken identity, or something truly mysterious is something each person has to decide for themselves. Maybe vampires are nothing more than one of history's greatest myths. Or maybe some legends survive for centuries because they contain just enough truth to keep us wondering. As long as there are abandoned castles, forgotten cemeteries, and dark forests hidden beneath the moonlight, the legend of the vampire will probably never disappear. And perhaps that's exactly where it belongs. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed exploring the history, myths, and mysteries surrounding vampires, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes where we dive into more chilling legends, haunted places, unsolved mysteries, and the strange stories that continue to fascinate people around the world. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think vampires are simply folklore created by fear and misunderstanding? Or do you believe there could still be something lurking in the shadows that science has yet to explain. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and maybe keep the lights on tonight.